All right, this is Nate, and today on the episode of the Vinyl Guide, we're very excited to speak with Buzz Osborne, most notably from Melvins, Phantomas, King Buzzo solo albums, various collaborations, and most recently part of the supergroup Crystal Fairy. Buzz,
Yay!
Buzz, is it all right calling Crystal Fairy a supergroup?
Sure.
All right.
We're a super duper group.
I would agree with that. I've heard the album. I think it is great. Of course, with your Melvins partner in crime, Dale Crover, Omar Rodriguez Lopez from the Mars Volta at the Drive-In, and Terry Genderbender from Les Boucherettes. You can't go wrong with that lineup. So,
you'd think it would be a home run every time. You know?
So, how did that project come together?
We toured with Les Boucherettes opening for the Melvins, and I really, really, really liked them. And I thought we started doing a song with Terry at the end of our shows, and it just hit me. We should do it. Not only should we do it with Terry, we should also do it with Omar as well.
So Omar was recruited into your idea there.
Yeah. I just thought, it'd be fun.
Mm-hmm. And
the whole band that way. Yeah.
You do a lot of collaborations like that, bringing in different folks from different bands. Recently with Steve McDonald of Off and Red Cross and various other ventures. Trevor Dunn kind of rotates in Melvins here and there.
Yes.
How is it when you're collaborating with all these different? Do you know that they're the right people to collaborate with, or are you taking a bit of a chance when you make the offer?
Well, I'm usually a fan. I'm always a fan of the people before I ever even ask them, you know. So we've never had auditions for our band. I never would. I just simply look for people I already am a fan of, and then just tell them to adapt their bass style to what we're doing. I have no interest in having a clone or a robot playing bass. I want them to feel comfortable and good about what we're doing and what they're playing with us, and I think that they're musical sensibilities are something that I already like, and so maybe they'll show me something I hadn't thought of. I'm in. That's really it. That's really it. You're a fan. I'm a fan first.
Mm-hmm. So you're confident it'll work when you bring someone new into that spot?
I pretty much do. Generally the only problems that come up in bands, especially the band, at least the music I've been playing in the last 30 years, is personal issues. It's not musically, They just can't play it. No, it's never the case, Because the guys I feel very lucky in that I've only played with super competent musicians who are easily capable of playing anything I want them to play. So it's just a personal issue that makes it to where we can't make it work anymore. And that was the last time we did that. When we had a permanent member. It was about 10 years ago. I said I would never do that again because it's too difficult to count on one person. So we just do whatever we want to. Steve McDonald is the newest incarnation, and it's really good. Really, really love it. So.
Yeah, he seems like a very solid puzzle piece there.
He's great. He's a super good bass player.
So you don't envision that role ever being permanently filled again?
The last time we had one, it was so hard to get out of it. When it had to happen, not to get out of it, but it was so hard. Having to move on that I'm not strong enough to go through it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too hard to sit there and go, okay, I don't want to do it with you anymore, for whatever reason. And it's always personal issues, and I'm sure people can figure that out, whether it's, psychological, drugs, or whatever it is. It's never a fucking musical problem. I've never had that problem, It's always a personal issue.
But thankfully. But you and Dale have been tight for so many years.
Yeah.
So you guys are almost kind of, separate halves of one brain in that. You don't have to worry about that end of things, but just inviting somebody into that is.
Well, me and Dale, we might have a few differences, but it's like me and my wife talk about that. It's like they're not divorceable offenses, You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've been married 23 years, and with my wife, it's like, we might have arguments or disagreements, but none of it's divorceable, I could deal with that, no problem.
Being married, and of course, you are on the road, I want to say 200 dates per year?
About 100.
Oh, about 100
to 110.
Okay. So you guys still see each
That's
other
plenty,
a fair
believe me. What was that?
So you guys still see each other quite a bit then?
Once in a while.
Okay.
We pass here and there. Sometimes we're home at the same time.
And as you age, are you slowing down the touring at all?
We changed our attitude a little bit, but not so much slowing down. I mean, doing 110 shows a year isn't that tremendously difficult. When you consider what most normal people do for a living would be 40 hours a week just to pay bills, I've always felt blessed, honestly, you know. Obviously touring is its own nightmare, but you know, we kind of have it figured out, and we have surround ourselves with professionals, and then we're usually home during the winter when we make records. So we have a joke that, you know, even birds fly south for the winter.
So you're a bit like
LA.
So you're a bit like a squirrel. So you're stocking up your nuts until the one time a year when you're going to need them, and you do all the recording in the winter and then go out during the summer.
We try to. Yeah, that's generally what our plan is. And then we'll do a few shows here and there. Like we played over the New Year's. We played 3 shows. And we just played 2 shows here in LA, and you know. But this is Sun Belt, you know. No big deal.
Let's go back to young Buzz Osborne. When you were young, who were the musicians that you most looked up to?
You mean musicians that were in bands or ones I was around?
Either or.
I wasn't really around too many. So the ones I looked up to the most, I would say, first and foremost was The Who, Townsend. It's probably my favorite from the very beginning when I first started listening to music. Hendrix, stuff like that. You know, the Zing Pow stuff, you know. And then after that was the bands like the Sex Pistols and the Stooges and MC5 and all the good punk bands, and so much stuff to find, you know. I still love all that stuff. I love all the same music I did when I was 13 or 12, and I've expanded into a whole lot of other stuff, you know. But that stuff, I always laugh, you know, when I was 12 or 13, the records I liked I still like, and the reason is because they were good. That never changed. I still like Rocks by Aerosmith, you know. It's a good record, just like I still like Funhouse. I still like, you know, Sex Pistols, Nevermind the Bollocks. It's a great record. I never understand why people piss all over stuff like that. It's like, what are you listening to that's so great that you can take shots at this stuff, you know?
How did you discover that music? How did you discover that music? 'Cause you were raised in a bit of a small town.
A really small town, yeah, middle of nowhere.
How did that music make its way to you?
It wasn't easy. I would mail order records because there's no records in the town I lived in. None. No record stores. And so I would mail order records out of the back of something like Cream magazine or one of those magazines like that. And you would just see these big mail order lists, you know. So when I was about 12 or 13, I would have money from, you know, mowing lawns or something like that. Back when, actually, this was back in way a long time ago, kids, when teenagers actually worked. Those days are over, you know. And I would get money, and then I would see a record in there, like, I don't know what, like, let's say it's a, you know, I have no idea, you know, any record, The Clash, I don't know, anything, you know, and go, I'm going to order that record solely on the fact that it looked cool, or that I had heard something else and they'd referenced it, or, you know. And then I would give my mom money, and she would write me a check for that amount of money, and I would send away for the records. That's how it worked. That's how I got the Pistols. That's how I got all those records. You know, any of those that would have been unavailable to me, solely by the way they looked in the magazines. You see a picture of the Sex Pistols, and I'm like, I want to buy that record, you know? You know what I mean? I want to find those records by those bands. And it was tough. It was tough because I didn't have any older brothers or anything like that, or people that were turning me on to music. And that's how I got into Bowie and all those sorts of Bowie's probably one of the main ones that from that I was able to move into a whole lot of other weird music, you know, whatever it may be.
So a series of taking chances, and of course there were successes like the, you know, Sex Pistols and Bowie, and there probably were albums that you're like, oh, geez, I'm not going to play this one again. Do you?
No, those were all home runs, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
The Sex Pistols and Bowie.
No, yeah. I meant Sex Pistols and Bowie were the home runs, but you probably also got a whole bunch that weren't. Well,
I was really picky, and because I didn't have a lot of money. So what would happen is like, let's say one of my cool aunts or something. I got you you're into rock music. I bought you a record. Here's the Steve Miller Band, you know. And it's like, okay, you know, thank you, you know, or something like that, you know. That's when I would get the ones that I didn't really care about too much, or, you know, Styx.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. You know, it's just, but that's the only way I got any records like that in my collection. I might have bought a few here and there, but man, I had to be really careful with what I was buying because I just didn't have any money.
When did you decide to go from listener to actually playing?
Way later. I didn't really get a guitar till I was out of high school. I played in high school, but I had all crap guitars, and my parents were not in a position to be laying out tons of bread for me to go buy guitars and amps. You know, that was not happening. I mean, they had their own, you know, they were going through their own stuff, and that wasn't even an option. It wasn't like, you know, buy me a new Gibson. You know, I mean, that's just nuts. You know, I didn't even consider it really. You know?
Were they supportive of your interest in music?
Not really. I mean, it was not something I had. I guess to some degree, but you know, they were fairly dubious about the whole thing, as one would be. I mean, it's odd. You know, we always joke that the difference between making money playing music and playing the lottery is that you actually have a chance of making some money with the lottery.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, if somebody tells you they're going to be a musician, you know, I don't know what advice to give them. It's like, you know, my main thing I can say is be as peculiar as possible. That's probably will get you more attention than trying to look like Johnny what's his name from down the street. You know, it's never served me. It's never not served me well. Being as weird as possible. Look at bands like Kiss or you know, Tiny Tim. You know, you know, I mean, would anybody have cared if they looked like they just got off work at a truck stop? You know, no. You know, probably not. It really helped. Or Alice Cooper. I mean, the problem with that though is that at least those bands sold, or they wrote good songs, you know. But it really helped for them to look as peculiar and weird as possible.
Was that an approach early on, or was that something you stumbled upon after doing it for some years?
It doesn't take long looking at Bowie albums, you know, to realize you don't have to look like G.I. Joe to make it in this world, you know, in the music industry. It's pretty simple. I never really cared about looking like everybody else. It didn't bother me. And the only time I ever had to look semi-normal was when I had straight jobs. That was it. Other than that, I didn't care. It was like when I got my gold tooth. I asked my wife about it. I go, what do you think? She goes, you don't have a job? Go ahead. I love that. You're right. I don't have a job. Yeah. Right. But I quit working. I haven't had a job in a long time.
What was the last job you had?
Cooking pizzas, 1988. You know, it's the last time I worked. Now we were able to quit our jobs, but it doesn't mean we had a lot of money. But one of the main reasons we were able to do that is because we were on a record label called Boner Records, and that guy was actually honest in paying us exactly what we were owed every 6 months. And man, when you get paid fairly for a record, you realize exactly how much you're getting ripped off by everybody else. You know, it's pretty eye-opening. Wow. So you know, Tom Flynn has put out those records ever since, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm a very, very loyal person when it comes to those sorts of things. If you haven't steered me wrong, I have no reason to look for somewhere else to go. You know, you can keep putting out those records as long as you want to. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I value stuff like that massively. You know, I'll go back to the same clubs. I'll go back to the same promoters. I will go, you know, stay on the same record label as long as they don't screw you over. Why not? You know it works. You know. The grass isn't greener, you know, or maybe you've been smoking too much green grass and think it is. Man, you know what? We could do so much better at this other label. We'd probably be selling millions of records. You know, it's like, yeah, fuck all that. You know, no interest. If it works, if some guy wants to pay you for putting out records, you know, you should treat that guy nice. You know?
So when it comes to the Melvins catalog, is it pretty much, are all the re-releases under your purview, or you're aware of everything that's going on? You can control and manage it?
Yeah, mostly. I mean, the Atlantic stuff we don't have much say over, although we did with the Third Man guys, the re-releases of the Atlantic stuff on the vinyl. But, you know, mostly we ran into that a little bit, like the European end of Atlantic, years after we were off the label, put together a greatest hits record and put it out without asking us. It's like we had any hits. I don't know what they're talking about. It's like they didn't even send us a copy of it, Nothing. But other than that, we haven't really had too much trouble. We have trouble with some trouble with bootleggers, which is I think that's fairly evident with lots of people, bootlegging.
Is that bootlegging shows then? Or?
Bootlegging shows, making not just bootleg, like a bootleg of a show, but like a copy, a forgery of an album that's already out, and pretending like, oh, this is the red vinyl version of this record on, wherever. So buyer beware, caveat emptor, that's all I can say, Bootleggers to me are you're just ripping the bands off. They're not paying us nothing. They're just ripping the bands off. Especially if you're making a copy of one of our records, you're trying to rip us off. If you want to put out a live show in Poughkeepsie or whatever, that's one thing. But I'm not into that either. But that's different than putting out literally a fucking copy of one of your records.
Mm-hmm.
Where they put fake label, the whole works, trying to make it as close as possible. Those people need to die, as far as I'm concerned. I'll come to your house and just steal money out of your pocket, see how you like it. I don't understand any of it. I mean, it's just like, I don't know what kind of a person thinks that's okay, I mean, it's one thing. You want to download an album off the internet, go ahead. That genie's already out of the bottle, but to go to the trouble of making a fake album of ours, and then putting it out, that's pretty dastardly,
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Do you see a lot of those?
I've seen plenty of that kind of stuff. That's why I said caveat emptor. But I mean, that's not cool. There's no way to rationalize that into being an okay act.
No, I'm just trying to understand the scale of the problem. If that's something that is you're seeing constantly,
I see quite a bit of it. You see quite a bit of that with T-shirts. You see quite a bit of that with, I'm sure, with bigger bands. But I mean, there's not that many pressing plants. You think that that's a big chance to be taken. They'll come down and shut your whole goddamn place down,
So let's go back to one of the early records. Melvins were playing in Washington and became part of what's known as the Deep Six compilation.
Yes.
4 tracks on the shared album, including a lot of other bands. I think Soundgarden was on there and a couple others. How did that come about?
Well, the guy, I don't know who was putting it together. This guy, Chris Hanzik, but I don't know who picked out the music. He might have. He saw a lot of those bands, and the only band at that point on that record that had actually had a record out or were touring or in any degree was the U-Men. And I don't know that they even really wanted to be on it. I'm not really sure. I think that they thought the rest of the bands were a bunch of heavy metal, and they were too cool for that. Even though I really love the U-Men, to me, they're some of their records, especially their first 12 inches. Some of my favorite stuff that ever came out of Seattle. They just never got their due, but that's how it works. The world's not a right place. It's not just. That's just how it works. So they asked us to come down and record. I think we did one day and mixed it that day. And that was kind of maybe the second time we'd ever even been in the studio, or third time. And it came out pretty cool. And nobody cared. Nobody cared about that record when it came out. Nobody. I don't think it sold anything. Nothing. Then we ended up doing a 7-inch with CZ. And then Chris sold the label to somebody else. And then there we were on a label with somebody that I wouldn't have ever picked to be on a label with, And we learned our lesson. And we learned that lesson, and then we learned the lesson from the Porch Treatments record, and then we finally got hooked up with Boner. So we never made a dime on record sales of any sort, until, not that those labels sold a bunch of records, but we never got anything, nothing, until we were hooked up with Boner. And then the Osmo record, I don't know how many it sold now, but I think initially it sold about 10,000 copies, and that was enough to make it to where we could, I might be wrong about that, but it made it to where we could go on tour and actually not lose our ass, And that was when it kind of my music career for real took off. But we, you do a lot of stuff but prior to that, and, but it doesn't matter if you lost money for the 7 years prior to that. The second you make any money, the IRS is right there to take their share. Isn't that a pretty sight, Yes, you lost money for the last 7 years, but this 8th year you actually made some money. We want our cut, Yeah, that seems fair, Whatever. I guess they don't really have any concept of the capital gains tax at that point, But. But
So
whatever.
once you got on Boner, Ozma came out, started getting some play. Good things started happening. You quit the pizza job. You started paying taxes.
Oh yeah,
You
you
got to
better. They have
tour.
a cell for you waiting if you don't. I've always done my best to stay out of those places.
Have you ever seen the inside of one?
Oh, as far as you know.
Good, stay that way. So one thing I want to actually quickly talk about is the Lysol record.
Yes.
So there were some shenanigans around Lysol record, especially the first pressing. Can you walk us through just a brief history of that?
Yeah, we thought it'd be funny to call a record Lysol, or Drano or something like that. And it never occurred to us that they would even care.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were so under the radar that and at that time we were making a little bit of money, but I'm talking when we stopped working, it was literally like, what are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do now? You know what I mean? We were desperate for money. We were barely getting by, just squeaking by, playing a gig for $400 was a huge deal, and we were very excited about things of that nature, and that's kind of how it kind of all worked, but until we jumped off that cliff and said, okay, we're going to quit our jobs, and we're going to see how long we can do this without having to get jobs, see how long we can make this pay our rent. We couldn't do it until I was desperate to what am I going to do now? It couldn't work. So we had done a few records prior to that, and we got to that record, and I never considered us a big band or anything like that, or big enough to even make a dent. So Tom had taken out a ad that the new Lysol record is coming, and some guy came to his office and said he wanted to do an interview with Tom, and pretended like he was a fanzine. It was actually somebody from Lysol, the company, whoever the company was. And then they sent him this giant court thing. We're cease and desist, blah blah blah, all this crap. Well, we already had thousands of records pressed, and so we had we have to destroy them. So Tom says, well, I don't have to destroy them if I could just cover them up. So that's what we did. We sat there and either stickered over them or spray painted them. So we didn't have to sell them all or destroy them all,
So it was the band and the folks that ran Boner Records that sat there for a few evenings putting black tape over record labels and record covers.
And, and Tom was like, dude, why didn't you just tell me? This was way before the records were even made. You did this. All you had to say is, hey, don't do this. We wouldn't have done it, I'm not stupid, you know what I mean? I wasn't trying to make a stand, So so if you find one of those records, that's the very first pressing of those. I don't even have one of those,
Yeah, so look for the Lysol with the black tape.
Which is odd because I usually save everything,
Do you have a big record collection at home?
Well, Melvin stuff, I have everything, almost every single thing, I might be missing a couple little tiny things, but I don't know how many releases we have, I have no idea. But musically, I have a ton of music, I don't necessarily collect records, but I understand the collecting. I'm more of a music collector than I am a record collector, which means, if I really want something, I'll buy the CD of it and store it. That's how I do it. So, but I understand collecting, and the Melvins make a lot of vinyl. Mm-hmm. And we try to make it as interesting as possible,
So let's talk about that, because in the mid-'90s, really at the nadir of vinyl purchasing, you guys were still full-on committed to pressing records, and not only just making 12-inch albums and whatnot, but also making these very boutique pressings of 5 and 800 7-inch singles. Making decisions that were counter to what any capitalistic society would have ingrained in people. What always brought you back to vinyl?
Well, it isn't so much vinyl. I mean, it's not so much that I have a love of vinyl. It is there, and some certain amount of people want it, and it's a cool thing to do with art,
mm-hmm.
That's mainly it. The most important thing is the music. That's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if had vinyl never been invented, I wouldn't be, we'd be doing it some other way, But we also put it out there in a wide variety of other ways, especially now, downloads or on CD or something, So people, there's some certain amount of people that want that, and we can sell it, and so we'll do it. And even back then, we're like, well, maybe we can't sell millions of these, but we could easily sell 1,000 of them. So let's just concentrate on what we can get and not worry about what we wish we could get.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a philosophy that's never ever failed me. while everyone else is trying to get bigger, that's when you look at what everyone's doing and you do something different. No, now we should make less,
Mm-hmm.
Make it really cool, charge more, and make less of them. But they're a pain in the ass. Vinyl's a pain in the ass. You're stuffing them all. You're making crazy covers. We do that stuff all the time. All the time. I love it. I love those kinds of things. I love doing it. I love, being involved with guys like Tom Hazelmeyer. And we're always surprised that no one else has picked up on how that's all done and why they don't do it the way we do. Well, I'm not surprised because it's hard work. It's good hard work. And I've never been a guy who was afraid of rolling his sleeves up,
Mm-hmm.
Well, spray painting Lysol covers.
Well, it seems that you make a lot of you have these ambitious and eclectic adventure, and it's not just musically. You guys did the 51 states tour. It's like you create some sort of goal or some sort of idea that hasn't been done before, and the pursuit is the reward.
Yes.
Are you doing that out of boredom?
We call it stunts. Let's do a stunt,
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, do we have to do 51 every state plus DC in 51 days? No. Why did you do it? Or somebody said, you guys just did this to make money. It's like, well, we do every tour to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Not just this one.
Yeah.
Well, why'd you do this? Because it seemed like it would be cool, And you just did it as a publicity stunt. Well, it's like, well, yeah, so what? It's not. I mean, we need all the help we can get. I don't exactly have Daddy Warbucks at home writing checks for me, And as long as you're careful and you're very realistic about what's possible, it can work out, But you're going to have to put your nose to the grindstone and make this thing happen. First and foremost, you're going to have to make music that's cool. We have really eclectic tastes, and we like all kinds of things. And we've really honestly believed, as long as we did something we believed in and we thought was cool, other people would too. It's not going to be millions, but it'll be enough.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's a sole idea. Don't make more, make less. Do the exact opposite of everyone else. It's not 1985 anymore. Think of it differently, Think outside the box. But good luck with that. You're not going to get musicians and record labels are some of the most conservative people in the world when it comes to that sort of thing. Wanting to do something different. They might say they do, but when you actually try to get them to do it, they're not going to do it, Be happy with your pressing of 300. That's all you made, Be happy that you sold them all. Move on to the next thing. Always be happy with what you're getting, not what you wish you could have gotten. Most people go, well, if we sold 500, we could probably sold 1,000. Well, maybe someday you can repress it. But, right now you did this really cool thing. The people that got it feel really special. It's totally cool. It's a quality product, and that's your target audience.
And you get to move on. Once you create
you get to move on.
Yeah. Oh, you don't have a garage full of stock you're trying to get rid of.
No, we can't do that. We don't have a warehouse. I'm not going to do it. We make as many as we can get rid of almost immediately,
Mm-hmm.
And then, or like right before we go on tour, we'll store a few to take with us right before we go on tour. I'm always amazed at the people who don't buy them. It's like, dude, we're selling these cheaper than anybody else is. Buy two, sell the other one, and you could make just as much as easily pay for the one you just bought. But whatever, the market is out there. All you have to do is look for it. And we sell all that stuff cheaper than anybody else. So people can bitch and complain, but I always say the same thing. Look, we don't make these for people who can't afford them.
So when you see a copy of one of your records that you've sold at shows going, you sold at a show for $5 and now it's going for $150, what's your reaction?
Well, we would first off never sell it for $5. We sell it for a lot more than that. We have a premium price on it, but it's still cheaper than anybody else would. Let's say we do a limited edition 7-inch single of 300 copies. Well, we'll sell that for $40, and it's got a silkscreen cover and all those kinds of things, and we don't have any problem selling those all day long. Now, if I made 1,000 every single time I did that, I might have a problem, or more, I might have a problem getting rid of them. But we can sell 300 of anything, or 500 max, at the most. Then you move on. But what people don't really take into account is it's expensive to make short runs of stuff, and it's expensive to have 7-inch singles made, and the covers made, silk screened, and or whatever we're doing. We do a lot of letterpress printing and all those kinds of things. All that stuff it's expensive. So then you're making enough, out of that than to also then push into the next one you're making. So it's not, you really have to be careful about how you're doing it. You could really run into a big money losing situation if you stop looking at it realistically, But I'm always happy to see our stuff go for a lot of money. It means it's worth something. People want it. It's a free market. The free market is a beautiful thing, Generally, when something is subsidized, it's because no one wants it. Like public radio.
So when it
you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. No, of course. That's an interesting way to put it. I think I have to think about that and chew it up in my mind a little bit. But I think there's really some truth to what you're saying.
Oh yeah. It has to be forced on people. You have to steal money from them in order to subsidize it. That's because no one else will pay for it. If it had any real worth, then you wouldn't have to do that. You'd have investors and people who would want to be interested in it completely.
What's your reaction when you see someone buying a record that's more for the investment than the enjoyment of the music?
I think that's very few, It's few and far between. If they want to do that, I don't think it's a good investment personally, You have to keep it, you have to hold on to it, it has to take up space, and then maybe it'll increase a ton in value, but maybe it won't, who knows, Sure, there's records out there. I remember asking Joe Biafra, I think he has hundreds of thousands of albums. And I was like, well, how many of these do you have that are worth $1,000? He goes, not many. Quite a few, but not as many as you'd think. Isn't that funny? Because most of them aren't worth hardly anything at all. So there you go, I don't find a lot of people that buy our stuff as an investment. They buy it because they enjoy it and they want it.
Right.
Whatever it may be. But I don't know how many of them even ever get listened to. I have no way of knowing that. How many come out of the package and people are throwing them on their turntables? No clue. I think people buy them because they're cool. I understand that. Why do people buy nice stuff at their house? Why do you buy a painting? Why do you buy? It's kind of like an entry level into buying art. It is art.
It is
That's
art.
what it is.
Yeah. It's art that we can afford.
Right. It's an entry level to buying art. Here's something really cool. It's every bit as important as any art that's out there. That's the way I see it. That's the way we approach it. That's how we deal with it. Especially that. Now, like I said, going back to the beginning, the most important thing here is the music. That's the most important thing. That's what we really slave over. And then you try to make cool covers and cool concepts, whatever it may be. We always have something cooking. Always have some idea.
And now, the majority of the music you release is on one of two labels: the Amphetamine Reptile or Ipecac.
Yes.
Do both those labels pretty much take whatever you're going to give them at face value? Any discussion about it?
No. I haven't had a discussion about what was going to be on a record ever. Not think about it. Even when we were on Atlantic, we did exactly what we wanted. I would have had it no other way. I think Johnny Rotten said, the second you start to dictate is the second I cease to function. Exactly.
So there was that one point in time when you were on Atlantic and you turned in the album that became Prick.
Yes. Well, we didn't actually turn that in to them. No, we had every intention of putting it on an Ipecac. On an Amphetamine Reptile. They were like, well, let us put it out. We were like, why don't you listen to it and see? Well, we don't know. You guys are on here. We're supposed to be owning this, and we had 100% artistic control. Like, we could say, no, this is our next album. We could have, We go, listen, if you listen to it, you'll see that you don't really want to do this, and just let us put it on an AmRep. Well, it turns out no one had ever asked major label stuff like that, So we were in a position where we could have turned it in as our album. They didn't have to put it out, but they would have had to pay us. Anyway, that was the way our contract was worded. So instead they go, no, we want to do it. No, we want to do it right up until the day they said we never heard another word from them. And you go, oh, they finally listened to it. So it came out on AmRep, while we were on Atlantic. Why? Because we asked. Most people wouldn't have the guts to ask. I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense to me. Ask. If you don't ask, you don't get.
What was Atlantic pretty good to you guys?
They were fine. I would have stayed on Atlantic. I couldn't believe they wanted to do more than one record. Honestly, we've never thought it would work. Now they say that they hired us so other cool bands would go there. Okay, well, maybe that's the case. But, I think they sold pretty good. Our stuff, those are our biggest selling records. but solely because it had massive distribution like we'd never seen before, you know. But we kind of figured that the money we were going to get up front was all we were ever going to get. I wasn't wrong about that for any of those records, so we were very careful with how we spent the money, and we spent a lot more on those records than we ever did before because we had more to spend. And if I could do that again with the same exact contract, I would do it without hesitation, you know. It was great. They didn't tell us what to do. Listen to those records. If that's record company meddling, then they're doing a good job, you know. I don't hear it. You know, I don't hear them going, hey, listen, boys, your last song on Houdini should be a 9-minute drum solo. I don't know. No, that never came down from the A&R, you know. Or Stoner Witch. We want you to put out a record called Stoner Witch, you know. No, that never came down from the A&R, you know.
The kids are really into this thing called stoner witching.
Yeah. That's what we think you should do a record like that, you know. It opens with dogs barking and stuff like that. And, no, that didn't come down from the top brass, you know. They just said, you know, here we turned in those records with the covers done, mastered, and they put them out as is, and not any questions asked. So there you go. What can you say? I didn't have the experience that other people have had. I didn't, you know. But we had a really good contract. It wasn't tons of money, but it was enough, and we, you know, made the most of it.
And you had artistic freedom.
But I wouldn't have had it any other way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have let them tell me, "Oh, you're going to do this." You're going to. I'm like, "What? Who the hell do you think you signed?" You know. So when we were getting signed, we didn't have a manager or anything. We got a lawyer, and we just told the lawyer, "This is what we want." And we had like 20 major labels trying to sign us at that point because they were all signing anything related to Nirvana. So we were like, "Well, this is crazy. Sure, we'll go along with this insanity. Let's just see what happens," knowing in our hearts that this was not our shot. That it wasn't going to work, not the way they thought, you know. I mean, look at us. We don't look like Cobain, none of us, you know. And we don't write songs like that either. And so we just approached it like we were going to get as much out of it as we could and come out of it in a better place than we were when we went into it. And we were. I never looked back. I love those records. They're great records. I have nothing bad to say about Atlantic. Some of the people there were stupid, but that's a big company. What do you expect, you know? There's people working at any big company that are stupid.
So
know?
That's a really interesting, and I'm sure you know that's a very unique perspective, especially in the music and business, you know, areas. To a lot of people will see that as my big opportunity, or this is my chance to hit the big time and play arenas. Where it seems like you were very realistic, feet on the ground, saying, you know,
I've always been that
this
way.
is since the beginning. Since
the beginning, I always figured that it wasn't going to work. That we were going to be out of business in 6 months, and we have to operate as such. I think that is a good way to run any business. You know, it's not going to work. It keeps you hungry. It keeps you worried. It keeps you thinking. It's like with our records. I'm going to do this wild packaging and crazy thing, but I'm really going to worry about the music. Now, what do I have to do with the music? Well, what I have to do is make music that's really good. I have to do that. First and foremost, that's my biggest concern. Make sure this music is weird and challenging and on and on and on and on. What I would like as a music fan. And as long as I'm doing that and not trying to dictate or not trying to decide what the fans want, what would they buy? I have no idea what they want. That's the oldest story in the book, you know. Well, this is what the kids want. I don't know what the kids want. I didn't like the kids when I was a kid, you know. I have no concept of what they're into, and I don't even want to try. I know what I'm into, and I'll just move forward in that department. I figure I have good taste. So take it from there. That's really been the only thing that has guided me through the whole thing.
That's a very rare confidence, though. When's the last time you went against your gut?
Never. I've never, not like that. You know, I've done it a few times with music stuff, but with musicians, but not where I wished I wouldn't have, but not as far as a business thing goes musically. No, I don't feel like I've made any mistakes along those lines. None at all. I've always been very careful because I've never thought it was going to work. You know, never. I'm very, very realistic and careful, and I'm very, very, very happy with what I get. That's the key. Be happy with what you get. It might be all you get. You know? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's a great lesson.
I think it's good. I think it's good advice. I don't know why they don't teach that in business school, you know? I don't know what the hell they teach in business school. I have no idea.
Because they charge people to go to business school, and it's the mentality
they figure if they know so much about business, how come they're not doing it? They're in the business of taking your money to teach you about business. Sort of like stockbrokers. If you're so smart about the stock market, why the hell are you selling them to me?
Yeah.
You know, it never ends. That kind of stuff never ends. You know?
So you follow your gut. You do these stunts. They're somewhat performance art, I guess. They fall in that category as well.
To some degree.
You've got some eclectic examples of some releases. I think in 2000 you guys did an 8-track. What was that decision like?
That was a bootleg.
That was a bootleg. That wasn't an official Melvins release.
No, it was a bootleg.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So someone made it.
There you go.
How did you discover you'd been bootlegged onto an 8-track?
I can't remember if somebody showed it to us or we saw it in the store. I can't remember. I don't remember the parameters of it. I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
Who has the 8-track tape player, you know? I wouldn't have made that, you know?
Oh, okay.
That doesn't seem very smart to me. But whatever. You know? It's fairly infamous, that thing is.
Yeah.
But we didn't make a dime on it, you know? Not that I remember. I don't think, I might be wrong about that. I don't think the guy ever gave us anything. I don't know who did it, you know, I don't remember. But, you know, it was a long time ago, a lot of records ago. I may be mistaken about the exact parameters of it. Oh, also, how you know we had nothing to do with it is the cover's fucking crap. That's how you know.
Okay.
If you look at that cover, that's not a cover I would have done. I pride myself on making things that look like they could be a Coca-Cola ad, you know. Really cool, excellent design. So the most offensive thing about us is the way we sound. Not that we made a crappy-looking record cover, especially as time has went on. Now I'm married to a graphic designer. I would never put out something that looked that horrendous. Not ever, you know. Our art is top-notch, you know. At least that's the way I look at it. Highly professional.
It does have
That's what I want.
a very unique design aesthetic. Is that your wife that is creating
She
that?
does a lot of it, and Tom Hazelmeyer does a lot of it. He's a graphic designer as well. Mm-hmm. So between the two, I feel like we have a very good team, you know.
Recently, Melvin's got into the cassette releases from with I think the label Small Doses. You're not biased toward one format or another. So was it a comfortable move doing some cassettes?
Well, I mean, I don't have much faith in cassettes. I mean, I never liked cassettes personally if I was going to buy them. But, you know, maybe there's some amount of people out there that do. It's a boutique item, you know. Mm-hmm. I view, like, MP3s as the modern-day version of the cassette, you know.
Yeah.
Not quite as good sounding, but you can get a lot on it. A 90-minute cassette was really cool at the time, you know. But I don't even have a cassette deck. So.
How do you consume most of your music these days?
Well, if I'm in the car, I'm listening to MP3s, and I just eat the sound quality so I can take a ton of stuff with me. If I'm at home, I listen to CDs. That's what I do.
Okay.
You know? Rarely ever listen to computer music at home. I only do that on the road out of convenience, you know. I love the way CDs sound, personally. I love it. I think they're really great, personally.
When you're doing recording, do you care if it's analog or digital, or doesn't matter?
No, I think that you can make I've always said I can make a crappy sounding recording with any medium. You give it to me, I can make it sound bad.
I could ruin it like that.
You better believe it. That's why I always think, oh, it's analog. Does that guarantee it's going to be good? No, it doesn't guarantee shit. You know, nothing. Sure, you can make a great analog recording, but you know, to me, it doesn't really matter. If I went, somebody said, "Do you want to come over and we'll record 24-track analog?" Sure, it doesn't bother me. I'm down for the challenge. Makes no difference. But I'm also not afraid of digital. I'm not afraid of it.
When you've got a handful of songs that you've written, it's winter in California, you're getting ready to go in and record it. Do you really care about analog or digital? Or
we have our own studio, so we would just do it there, you know, which is digital. You know. But here's the thing: I can make a digital sounding recording and just tell everybody it's analog. Yeah, it sounds great. I could tell. You know, no, you can't. You can't tell. They have no idea what it is. Yeah. Or where it's recorded. If it's bad sounding, it doesn't matter. Remember, all that synth pop crap that had no guts to it at all was all recorded in the 80s. That's on vinyl, analog, you know. Did it save it? No. Sounds like shit. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. It's the arrow. It's the Indian, not the arrow. You know? Hendrix would have been good no matter how he recorded it.
So what is your creative process? You stock up songs. You record them in the winter. Do you record 2 or 3 albums in the winter and release them throughout the year?
Depends. It depends on what we're doing. You know, we could do that. We could stockpile stuff. We normally do have a lot of stuff. By the time records come out, they've been sitting around for a long time. But that's how it always was. You know, I mean, just because you have an album done doesn't mean it's the right time for it to come out. Then you have discussions with the label. What do you think we should do? Well, we want to do a tour. Maybe we should put it out in June. Well, why don't we put it out in April? I mean, there's a million different ways. Who knows, about that. So, and then you could go, well, we just had this album come out. We just happened to get this one done as well. We should give it a little bit of time, Let it sit there for a while and then go.
So with a project like Crystal Fairy, do you foresee a second LP coming out at any point?
I hope so. I love that record. I think it came out really amazing. Couldn't be happier with it. Let's let this one come out first, and then just start talking about a second one.
Okay, so there's not another one on the back burner maybe for later in the year?
No. We all live in different cities, and we have a couple songs that aren't done, but the album's done. It's ready to come out in February, so this month. So I'm really looking forward to it. I love it.
It is a great album, and I think we're going to try to play a song on it on today's podcast
Great.
As well. How much is written before you go in?
I had ideas for stuff. Terry had ideas for stuff, and we jammed some stuff. That was it. But we wrote and recorded 3 songs the first day. I had riffs for Bent Teeth and Drugs in the Bus, and Terry had riffs for Necklace of Divorce. And we wrote and recorded those all except the bass, all in one day, without any rehearsal time whatsoever before that.
So when you have a song or a riff or an idea, how do you determine whether this is for this side project, whether it's for Melvins, whether it's for something else?
I don't think about it when I'm doing it. I just write.
Okay.
Bulk write, see what I come up with. That's it. That's what I do. I have no idea. And most of the stuff, I'd say 99% or 98% of it never gets used.
So here we got a few listener questions for you, Buzz, from folks out there who've submitted these. Sean Franklin asks, Will the Phantomos demo ever see CD release? So far, it's only on cassette, apparently.
I don't know. That's up to Mike. It's really Mike's deal, Whatever he wants to do, I'll say yes. No idea.
Okay, so that's a question mark there. Dave Nano asks, do you have a copy of the Fecal Matter cassette?
No. Dale might.
Okay.
I don't. I was never given one. So I think Dale might have one. He probably does somewhere.
Let's see here. How did the Uncle Grandpa episode come about?
The Uncle Grandpa people were big fans of the Melvins, and they got a hold of us. So they have a band. Some of the guys there have a band themselves. So then they recorded with the guy that we recorded with, Toshi Kasai. And that's how it happened. They were just fans. We just happened to have a song, and that was going to be on Bases Loaded that they really liked, and that's how it worked. And they were just, it's strange. We're older, and then these kids come up who, got into us when they were young, and then they get in a position where we work for Uncle Grandpa. Let's get the Melvins. We love them. That's just how time passes. That's how it works.
Were you guys familiar with Uncle Grandpa at all?
Not me. I don't really watch TV. So, but I'll have to say, those guys were super cool guys. I had a top-notch experience with them. I thought it was great. I really, really, really liked those guys. They were super nice to us. It was a great experience.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll post a link to the episode on the Vinyl Guide website because it really is cool. And
that's great. Yeah, couldn't have been better. It was really fun.
It's a great kids show. It's for kids and adults. It works on a few different levels.
It's pretty adult, I think.
Yeah, kids get they see one level of it and the adults see the other level. So it's very it's hard to do. It's a good balance they have there.
That's great.
And what's up for Melvins in 2017?
We're finishing up a couple things right now that'll come out. I'm not sure exactly when, but I never am when we're doing them. And it'll be business as usual. We'll continue working. Nothing's going to change until I can't do it anymore, or I can't stand it. Whatever comes first. But I always laugh. I go, how many records do you think I'll put out that don't make me any money? And the answer is less than 2. So you have to make something. It doesn't mean it has to be a lot, but I can't afford to lose money.
Yeah.
So, and you don't have to as long as you're careful. But that takes diligence.
Any plans for international touring in 2017?
We usually do. We haven't got anything set up at the moment, but that doesn't mean we won't. And who knows? Certainly in the U.S. That's a guarantee.
So we're looking forward to that, Buzz. Thank you so much. The new album is Crystal Fairy. I really encourage people to pick that up, crystalfairy.bandcamp.com. Order today if you can, because they have a limited edition pink vinyl version of the Crystal Fairy album that will for sure sell out. If it's already sold out, buy the black one. It's still great music, but if not, get the pink one. It's just extra special and cool. You could also hear about tour dates and any other adventures that Buzz and team has over at themelvins.net. Buzz, thank you so much for spending time with us here and sharing your thoughts and stories, and Godspeed to you, man.
Thank you.